Hey, what's up guys? Tim here from Monk Studio, and today I'm going to show you how I designed and made this cardboard lamp. Let's get started. Alright, let's get started with materials. All of the things that we go over right now, I'll link in the show notes below just so that you don't have to look for it on your own. The first thing we'll need is a metal ruler like this one. We're going to use this with a utility knife like this one here to cut all of the cardboard down to size, and then we'll put the cardboard into our laser cutter and essentially just cut everything in there. The next thing we'll need is a light bulb with a lamp like this. You can get one on Amazon where this switch here is actually closer or further away from the lamp itself. Depends what kind of lamp you're trying to make and where you would like to locate that. The next thing we'll need is a rag, something like this, or even a damp sponge will help. You put a little bit of water on it and then you can wipe off any excess glue. The next thing we'll need is some wood glue. So we'll take this here and put it into a squirt bottle like this with a thin cap on the top so that we can control how much glue is coming out of it when we're ready to put the pieces of the cardboard together to make the lamp. And then we'll need a cutting mat. So I have a 36 by 48 cutting mat, and I really like the bigger sizes because it helps me put any material on it and cut the entire thing without having to readjust it and try and line up the cut. And then obviously we'll need the cardboard. So when I first started this project, I thought about going out and getting some from the dollar store nearby because they actually just break down their boxes and they put it in a bin on the side of their store. But when I started this project, it actually made more sense to buy these particular ones from Amazon because Amazon sells these in bulk. You can get some that are in a range of sizes. This set here, I got 25 of them at 18 by 24, and the cutting size on my laser cutter is about 11 by 20. So by taking these boards and just cutting them in half, I could essentially double what I bought and then just lay out all of my sheets accordingly and cut all of the pieces. Now the last thing that we'll need, and you probably heard me say it a few times already, is a laser cutter. Laser cutters are really cool as a tool to use, especially today because there's now companies like Glowforge, which is the one that I got for myself, that makes these laser cutters that you can use at home. So the one that I got is just a basic model with an air filter so that I can just run it in my house without venting it outside, and that's what we're going to be using to make all of these products. All right, now that we talked about materials, let's talk about the design of this lamp. So when I was coming up with the idea for it and I was looking for some inspiration, there was an architecture project that I remembered from Zaha Hadid Architects. It's a tower that they designed in Beijing that was recently completed. And the way that this tower was designed is that it comes up at a small circular base. It comes to a wider width at the center of the building. And then at the very top, it comes back to that smaller circle. And as it's doing that, there's this atrium that goes from the bottom to the top of the building, and it's actually the tallest atrium in the world. So combining that with this idea of a helix, I decided that this particular lamp I wanted to design and make would be one that is small at the base, wide at the center, and then small at the top. And as it's going up from the base to the top, I also wanted this helix void to cut around and go from one part of the lamp to the other, and essentially cut this void out so that when we put the light inside of it, when the light bulb is on, it'll spill out of these areas. And then the corrugation of the cardboard, in terms of how we're stacking it and how we're making it, it's going to be made of a lot of pieces of cardboard that essentially stack from the bottom up. So horizontally, we'll stack the cardboard, and what that'll do is the corrugation parts of the cardboard will let light spill through it and kind of filter it through so that it has this really beautiful aesthetic effect. So that's the design of the lamp. If we get into the sketch that I came up with, the first thing you'll see is that the base here is actually designed to be about 3 to 4 inches. I wrote 2 inches here. It really depends on the kind of lamp you're using. And then what that'll allow us to do is it'll allow the bottom of that lamp to sit somewhere. And then it'll also have an area for the conduit to come out of the base here. And then the very top of this will just be all of the cardboard. So the way that I thought about it proportionally is that the lamp will be about 12 inches tall and it'll be 6 inches wide at the base. And as it gets to the center, it'll increase by about 2 inches in diameter. What that'll do is it'll create a lamp that's essentially a smooth curve as it goes all the way up. And then the side of it will be this void that I was talking about with the Helix. And that void will be on, there'll be 2 of these actually. So one will start on one side and the other will start on the opposite side, and they'll kind of curve and go up together. Moving into the 3D modeling side of this, the way that I did it was I worked in an architecture software that I use. I think in general, if you're going to be learning a new software, or if you really want to get into this kind of thing, there's one called Rhinoceros, which a lot of architects, a lot of jewelry makers and product designers use, that I would really recommend. I didn't use it for this particular project because I just wanted to try using the architecture software that I use at my architecture firm. And the next software that I used was Autodesk Slicer. There are similar ones to it, but Autodesk Slicer was free. And the way that it works is when you're done modeling your lamp in one software, you can actually export it and then bring it into Autodesk Slicer. And what that does is Autodesk Slicer lets you quickly cut the model up into cardboard slices. So just as the name implies, what it does is it'll take that 3D model and it'll start to divide it for you. And it'll cut that thing from horizontally from the base to the top, or vertically from the side to the side, or even diagonally. You can choose the orientation that you want the software to cut it. Using that software, I decided, you know what, let's stack the cardboard for this particular project horizontally and let's go vertically with it. That's what the design intent of it was, as you could see in the sketch. So doing that in this software went very quickly, but the biggest downside that I found was that the software doesn't actually organize all of the sheets for laser cutting as well as I thought it would. So when you're setting up your file, I would highly recommend not taking what Autodesk Slicer gives you and just going with that, especially if you want to be sustainable and efficient here. When I exported the model, I had over 70 sheets that were going to be cutting maybe 3 or 4 pieces each. And in my mind, I knew that I could actually cut that down and I can reduce the amount of waste that would come out of this process. So I took a step back and I said to myself, you know what, there has to be another step to this. And the last step for me was to import that model from the Autodesk Slicer, whatever it exported as a PDF, I brought that into Illustrator. And what that helped me do was it let me reorganize every board and reduce the amount of waste that I would have at the end of this project. The other thing that Slicer does that I really want to talk about is it lets you layer up these pieces when they're made by both giving you numbers that's associated with every piece, so you know this is the first piece, the second piece, the third piece, the fourth piece, and so on and so forth. And it also gives you these little dots that'll be laser cut. The little dots let you use these kind of pins that you can buy from any store. It's essentially just a pin to pin something on a wall. And what you'll do with it is you'll take the bottom edge or the bottom point there and you'll put it into the top piece that'll then get glued onto the piece under it or above it. And it'll help you line everything up so that as you're building this lamp, all of the pieces stack exactly the same way that you originally designed it. I think that's something that's really cool, just the fact that they have this registration mark and that they have this in mind so that you can kind of design and go very quickly without having to do that on your own. All right, so when you're done cutting all of your cardboard, you should have a stack of them that looks something like this. And what's important to remember is when you're laying out all of your boards to get laser cut, you have to remember where all the corrugations are. If you cut any of your pieces in this direction, you're going to end up with solid pieces here that block all of the light from coming through. Whereas if you cut it on this side of the cardboard, you'll end up with more of the corrugations showing and all of the light will come through those corrugations and it'll create a really nice aesthetic when you view it from afar. So just keep that in mind as you're designing and laying out all of your pieces, and remember to incorporate that into your design because it's probably going to be the biggest part of it. Okay, now that we have the files set up and everything is ready to go for the laser cutter, it's time to move into the exciting part of this project, laser cutting all the pieces. Here we go. As you could see, all of the pieces are now laid out. We've got about 200 pieces roughly, and all of these pieces need to come together. This here will be the base, and you could see that all of the corrugation here is going to allow the light through. So when all of these pieces start to stack up, I cut it in such a way that light can actually pass right through all of these pieces here. So now I'm just going to start building this, and hopefully I'll be finished with it soon. There you have it, guys. This is how I make the cardboard Helix lamp, and the next time I make this, it'll take half the amount of time. In terms of the design, cutting, assembling, and getting it to this point, it took about 8 hours total. The next time I do it, it'll probably be half that time, if not less than that. I hope you guys liked the video. This is the first in the cardboard series that I'm starting, and I hope to see you next time. So remember to leave a comment below, like this video, and subscribe for more.